Hey guys, Poro here with another Worlds 2025 team breakdown, this time for HLE from the LCK. It's been pretty up and down for them, but they've consistently been a top 3 team from start to finish, so let's go over their year. HLE were the winners of LCK Summer 2024 after upsetting Gen.G in Grand Finals, but they had a disappointing Worlds exiting in just quarterfinals despite being the 1 seed. As such, HLE were looking to make some big offseason moves, specifically around top lane. They had Doran in 2024, but there were rumors that maybe Keen or Zeus were looking to change teams, and these rumors did in fact turn out to be true as HLE and T1 swapped top laners for the upcoming 2025 season. With this change, HLE came out of the gate swinging by winning Split 1 and qualifying to First Stand, where they would easily dispatch Top Esports and KC to dominantly win First Stand without dropping a single series all tournament. With therefore being the only team with potential to complete the Golden Road, HLE came to Split 2 as the favorites, and were definitely a top 2 regular season team alongside Gen.G. The two teams would battle over the MSI first seed in playoffs, and we got an amazing 5-game banger that ended in a reverse sweep for Gen.G. It was then expected that HLE would collect the second seed, but T1 had other plans as all 5 of their players stepped up and got into form at just the right moment. T1 would kick aside HLE in a dominant 3-0, and this led to HLE now being the consensus 3rd best team for Split 3. Here, HLE would not do so hot as they would drop all 6 series to Gen.G and T1 to really solidify their spot as the 3rd best team, and they were not favored to win against T1 in the Split 3 playoffs match. In a twist of fate though, this time it would be HLE who would complete the 3-0 upset, as they would eventually move on to the LCK Grand Finals and claim the 2 seed for Worlds. Zeus has been the big hallmark change of the offseason, and it's been a mission for him to prove that he's got what it takes to win without T1. In many ways, he's much of the same player now as he was then, with a high-impact carry style that demands attention. His favorite champions this year have been picks like Jax, Ambessa, Aatrox, and Gwen. He's also displayed his ability to play a large number of these carry picks, as he spent portions of the year finding large success with Vladimir, Nidalee, Olaf, and Kennen. These are not champions most top laners can play, and of the unique carry picks I mentioned, he has a 100% win rate across the board despite having multiple games on each. This versatility has always been one of his strengths as a player, as he's always had a number of flavorful picks that suit his style even if they go against the meta such as Vayne top in 2024 or Yone top in 2022. If you think his weakness must be that he's not flexible to play on low resources, you would also be incorrect. He's always been great in 1v2 lane swap scenarios, and he's not afraid to play traditional weak side picks like Ornn and Rumble. Due to all of this, Zeus has spent portions of the year being the best top laner in the world. Sometimes it was Keen, sometimes it was Bin, Flandre, or 369, and there were even stretches where it was maybe Doran. But I would personally say Zeus, across the course of the entire year, has either been the best or second best performing top laner in the world. I expect Zeus to be a strong player at this tournament, and if HLE want to have any chance to take home the title, Zeus will need to be a large contributing factor. For Peanut, this tournament is the only chance left he'll have to carve out his legacy. No matter what happens at Worlds though, even if HLE are knocked out in Swiss, Peanut's longevity and smart play are more than enough to cement him as at least a top 3 jungler of all time in my opinion. While Peanut in his prime was known for his Lee Sin in Italy, he's always been a team-first minded player and loves to facilitate on low resources. That said, the team's performances have wavered constantly over the course of the year, and the unit can never seem to consistently be better than Gen.G or T1. Much of whether the team looks great or is slumping comes down to Peanut's performance, as a lot of the team's identity rests on his shoulders. In a way, these lanes are suited perfectly for Peanut's style, with 3 electric carries who he can play for. However, if he's not on his A game, the structure of the team falls apart, and this is a big reason why they dropped off to 3rd place in Split 3 regular season. At his worst, Peanut's mechanics have faltered and he can make many mistakes in his play, all while performing questionable decisions across the map. He's certainly a jungler who can have disastrous individual games with terrible scorelines and no impact. At his best, he's possibly the smartest jungler we have at the tournament, and he's great at getting his lanes ahead early. He can find creative angles in fights and has the confidence to pull the trigger in big moments. If you're an HLE fan, you're probably excited for Worlds, because this is exactly the form Peanut was in for LCK playoffs. Against T1 and KT, Peanut was fantastic. It felt like he was in the zone and making all the right plays, similar to the best I've seen from him ever. And while maybe less people would agree with me on this, I thought Peanut was the better jungler when he squared off against Canyon in Grand Finals, even though the team ended up losing overall. If Peanut can keep this form, HLE will be a scary team who will make a deep run. Zeka is probably the most polarizing player on this team. I know some people who claim he's not good and barely scrapes into top half LCK mid laners. I know other people who think Zeka is a top tier elite mid laner who has spent much of the year second only to Chovy. Regardless of what you think, it's true that Zeka is a player who if he's feeling himself can take over and carry a game. While his champion pool is more stable now, at his core he's still a melee mid specialist who is best at Sylas, Akali, and Yone. All 3 champions are definitely going to be playable at Worlds, which is a scary proposition considering that's the style he used to be the best player at Worlds 2022. We also have a low sample size, but I felt that at all 3 international tournaments Zeka has attended, he's been a huge riser who plays his best in big moments. It's fine to be skeptical though. In terms of his split 3 performance, there were definitely some game throws and low lights to be had. I personally think some of his underperformance is a bit exaggerated, and that he's been playing out his early and big games pretty well for the most part, but it isn't difficult to find a clip where he's making the game-losing late game decision either. I have faith in Zeka to be good at Worlds, but we'll have to see what kind of Zeka we get. Viper is a player who's right on the cusp of being in the conversation of the greatest in his role. Depending on how he performs at Worlds, he might just get there. Viper has all the qualities you would want out of an elite bot laner. He's got amazing mechanics of course, and he has the ability to shoulder the responsibility of carrying a game if you need him to. He's also a player who you don't need to worry about if you give him less attention and a pick with less agency. He may have only played 1 game of Ziggs this split, but it's been a strong champion for him whenever he needs to pull it out, which goes to show his versatility in the role. I think Viper's best quality is his ability to stay level-headed in big moments. For a lot of top-tier ADCs, they feel the pressure to carry their team. Usually the marksman is the role with the highest damage output, and therefore the key champion who will win the team fight. A lot of the best AD carry players end up getting caught up in the moment and overplaying their hand while trying to carry the game. Players like Paze, Elk, and Jackie Love have all dealt with this issue in some of their matches. To me, Viper has been a player who is great at not doing this. Similarly to Faker, it's always felt to me like Viper is someone who is good at playing like himself at all times and not letting the moment overwhelm him. As such, he's one of the most reliable and consistent bot laners out there, and you can't even argue that his ceiling doesn't match because it most certainly does. Viper might not be this on your list, but he's definitely a reasonable pick for the best bot laner at the tournament. For a lot of support players, a common trope is that they'll be much better at engaged champions than they will be at ranged ones. I could rattle off a large number of pros who I feel can only function on various tanks and maybe Nico, and many of them are at this tournament. Delight is a player who fits the engaged specialist trope, but don't let that fool you. Unlike many of the other players, Delight is actually quite good at range supports when he gets them, whether it's Karma, Elise, Renata, or anything else you want to throw his way. The thing about Delight is that he picks those champions less often not because he can't play them, but because when it comes to his engage pool, he's just that good at it. If I had to choose who I think the best engager at the tournament is, I'm going with Delight. He can play them all at a world-class level, but I'd be especially wary of his Rel and Rakan. Something I especially respect about Delight is that he came from a bad team. Engaged supports die a lot. The nature of the role is to go in to set up the team, and if your engage is bad or if the team lets you down, you die. As such, engaged supports are easy to label as inters and discarded to the side if a team is bad. Delight was on Bro during their worst rosters, and had his fair share of last or second to last placements. However, everyone knew how much talent he had, which is something incredibly hard for a player of his skill set to do in the environment he was in. It speaks volumes that after 2 9th places and a 10th place finish, not a single LCK viewer was surprised or disappointed when the title contending Gen G snapped him up for 2023 spring, and he would go on to win that split. Since then, he's been a mainstay on any top tier LCK roster. HLE as a team should be viewed as potential favorites to win the tournament. They ended split 1 as the best team in the world and should be viewed to have that ceiling again. However, every player except for Viper has had their fair share of performance drops throughout split 2 and 3. Peanut and Delight can often make bad plays, and Zeus and Zeka have not been super consistent carry threats either. The team right now feels like a fragile combination of players where if one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. That said, it feels like the team has stepped it up for playoffs, and they're coming in with a vengeance. Their 3-0s against T1 and KT were no fluke, and the finals against Gen G was closer to a 5-game series than expected. The main reason why I think HLE's year has been like this is because they have a very interesting roster build. I think on paper, HLE are a perfectly constructed roster. Every player on the team has their pros and cons when you add them, but it feels like HLE did everything they could to account for any team chemistry weaknesses. Zeus and Zeka are high ceiling players who can carry the game, but they also demand high attention from both teams. Peanut is the perfect jungler for this roster, as his skill set uniquely allows players like Zeus and Zeka to perform at their best. Viper and Delight are both great all-rounders who can be the focal point of the map if you want it to be, but can also be weak side and allow for the solo laners to dictate the pace of the game instead. That said, this type of roster with 3 strong lanes and a facilitating jungler is a volatile idea. All 5 players have a very specific key role to play, and if even one of them isn't locked in, then the entire ship collapses. If HLE want to make a run to win Worlds, all 5 players have to be in their top form for the entire tournament. I think it's unlikely to happen, but in the event that all 5 players do manage to achieve their top form, I think this is the team with the highest individual player ceiling on it, even higher than a team like Gen G who have extremely talented players, but focus more on team play. We've seen teams come in with a makeup similar to this before, such as 2018 KT or 2021 FPX, and this formula has never netted high international success, but maybe this HLE squad can be the ones to finally make it click. That's all I have for you for this one. 10 down, 7 to go. I recently started a Patreon for people who want to support me more while I'm making these videos. I have 3 tiers, each with varying amounts of benefits including different types of behind the scenes content, and even a custom Poro drawing that I'll display in video outros. If that interests you, check out the Patreon link in the description. I'll see you all for the next one. Bye!